Ladies and gentlemen, welcome live to Habs Tonight, kind of a live afternoon breaking news edition. Sorry we're a little late. We're pretty late, actually. I would say 15-20 minutes. So we do apologize if anybody was waiting for us to jump on here. We appreciate you waiting. We always appreciate the support. And JD, thank you for jumping on, of course. Always appreciated.
My pleasure. I decided to wear the cowboy hat today anyway because of the news from John Liu last night in honor of fellow BC boy, rodeo, and country music fan Carey Price. So I don't know if you've heard, but basically he was saying that Carey Price took some shots for the third day in a row yesterday, and he and Paul Byron could start practicing with the team soon.
Well, that's breaking news to me, actually.
Well, he said that at the intermission. He also added that Brandon Gallagher and Sami Nico, as we know, are out of the COVID protocol, and they should be ready to play by Monday now.
Well, that's good news. And, the Habs are going to have an extra couple of days off here, so why the heck not, right? I mean, obviously our lead story starting today is, of course, the postponement of the Montreal Canadiens and Boston Bruins game, as we all know. And it's too bad in a lot of ways, but I mean, we'll start with this quote from Jonathan Drouin here. I mean, you translated it, briefly in French for me a moment ago, but Drouin was not comfortable playing against the Bruins, who currently have seven to eight players out of their lineup, including stars Patrice Bergeron, Brad Marchand. So clearly, post game last night against Philly, Drouin making it very clear that he's not comfortable playing against the Bruins. And then, that probably wasn't the only person that was uncomfortable, but it's pretty clear that this is becoming a growing issue with the fourth wave of COVID-19.
I think it goes beyond Montreal, it goes beyond Boston, it goes beyond that game. I think we're seeing an outbreak all over the place here, and we've had teams like Calgary that's been shut down, the Islanders prior to that, Nashville. You and I talked about it before getting on air here, but they had to call up 4 players and 2 coaches, something we don't see very often called up from the AHL due to their COVID situation. Montreal just had 2 players, Gallagher and Niku, as we just said, who are coming off the COVID protocol. And it's been an issue across the league. What I don't like is the fact that it seems to be pretty, there doesn't seem to be any strict guidelines as to when they're postponing games and when they're not, and when they're punishing a team or not. There's been teams that have been playing, you think of, I believe Carolina have been playing with shorthanded 16, 17 skaters. I don't know how they decide on those criteria, how the league decides on those criteria.
Yeah, it's a job I certainly don't envy, and it's not an easy one, right? I mean, this is just a situation that we never really thought we'd be in at this point, just still having to deal with all of this after a lot of folks being double vaccinated. I mean, what is it, 85 to 90% of Canada, or at least Ontario, I can probably speak for, is double vaccinated now. Everyone has the chance to get their booster. You can book it starting Monday. I'll be doing that myself, just sharing that information. I'm not really, we're all kind of at that point where we have COVID fatigue. It's a real thing, right? I mean, this has been such a long time going, and it's frustrating, but health and safety has got to be number one, I think, in life a lot of times before any kind of, before anything else, really. I mean, health, safety, family, right? That's kind of like the top 3 things that are most important in life right now. And I think that if guys aren't feeling it, if they're not comfortable, of course, we understand, right? As fans of hockey, but because again, like you said, it goes beyond the NHL. This is a much bigger issue. Still worldwide. It's hard to think like we're living in the middle of history right now, but we are, and it's not over yet.
No, it's far from over. And the thing is, those guys, they go back home to their families. A lot of them have young children. They have spouse, they have parents sometimes living with them who may not be fully healthy. And the vaccine, they've been, I'm going for my 3rd shot or my booster on the 22nd of this month. And we know that it's not 100% foolproof. It doesn't prevent you from getting COVID. So if you get COVID, you can still spread it to more vulnerable people. And I think that's the issue with some of the players too. And what happened in Montreal last night with playing with closed doors, this is not good. I was listening to Pierre LeBrun on that, and he was saying, for the HRR, for the revenue that they split between the owners and the players, playing in an empty building is the worst case scenario. They might have been better off postponing that game as well and playing it in front of fans, even if it's half full. So it might have come too late. I mean, we heard about Cole Caulfield's father who drove across the border and had all his shots, had his COVID test and everything, and couldn't enter the building. It's not an easy situation. A lot of fans were turned around at the doors. So rest assured that the organizations, the NHL teams and the NHL itself, that's not what they want for their fans. They want the people in the buildings. But we are in the middle of a crisis right now, and they need to deal with it. And I'm as sick and tired about it as everybody else is. But we have to get through it.
Right. Yeah, like that's why it's nice to jump on and just talk about it, right? Because we voice our feelings here, and I'm sure a lot of folks are feeling the same things everywhere we are. And that's the thing, like we're all tired of talking about COVID, right? It's exhausting, but at the same time, we're alive, we're well, right? I mean, like it's hard not to reflect on what really matters in life in times like these. And certainly we jump on to talk about the Montreal Canadiens. That's the name of our channel, Habs Tonight. And there's just so much more going on, right, in the world. And you have to appreciate what we have. And we've enjoyed a lot of hockey at this point. I mean, maybe not the Canadiens season itself. We know it's been a hard one, but you really got to reflect on what matters. And thank you for those that are chiming in right now. Jumping in. Glaxco too is a big Habs Tonight supporter also. So you're always jumping in with comments, and we'll just kind of bring this up here. I'm a big Bruins fan as well as a big Habs fan. Well, that's a first. I've never heard that before. I can tell you that right now. So kudos to you for that. I don't know how you make that work. So always make sure I catch a live game at the Bell Center. I'm very glad I decided to skip this year. Well, I mean, you're probably not alone in some instances there, but I can tell you that being at the home opener, it was electric. That buzz wore off a little quickly, unfortunately, but Jonathan Drouin, a bright spot for the Canadiens. Let's shift into something positive, JD.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that Montreal Canadiens and Philadelphia Flyers game last night. Let's talk about that and what we saw from the Habs. This could be the last game we see before Christmas. We don't know. Before the year is out, we don't know. The next game for the Canadiens is against the Islanders. It looks like on Tuesday, if I'm not mistaken.
I would say if you want to talk about last night's game, aside from Ben Sherratt and Drouin you mentioned and Arturi Lehkonen, that game belonged to the young guys. I was, we always say, there's always something positive. We try to be positive, absolutely, right? We're talking about.
Yep.
But there are things to be upbeat about. There are things, although the team is going nowhere, there are things that we can focus on and notice and be excited about. And to me, when I was watching that game, look at the way Laurent Dauphin played last night. He played his best game in the NHL probably. And we're not talking about a young kid here. Okay, let's agree on that. The guy's 26 years old. We can't say that, but he was solid. Caden Primeau, I mean, the guy stopped 37 of 39, including the 3 shots in the shootout. Apparently he is okay. He was sent down to Laval today. He's not going to play tonight. But, I don't know what you think, but he looked calm. He looked controlled. He controlled his rebounds very nicely, and he inspired confidence when he was in net. It's something that we need.
He did, and it looked like, okay, this could be flashes of, the Habs' future, right? I mean, that's just the reality that we have to face, not knowing Carey Price's future, right? That's just where it's at right now. But yeah, Caden certainly had a heck of a game, and him being reassigned to Laval was kind of weird to see. But at the same time, I mean, what's been weirder than the last year and a half? Okay, let's just highlight that.
But it was planned.
But it was planned.
Yeah,
that's true. It was more of an emergency recall, right? So, But yeah, Caden certainly played a heck of a game and inspired confidence, I think, specifically for me in overtime. He had a couple of plays, he flicked the puck and into the Flyers' hands, and it looked like it could have been a hand pass. And he was asking the ref, like, was that a hand pass?
And it was.
And it was. And thankfully it's so, because that would have been reviewable, right? If Philly would have scored. So I think that's good news in that front. But I mean, but like you said, the way he played, once Dauphin got that tying goal, sent us to overtime, I was definitely concerned when we went on the penalty kill after Ben Sherratt's penalty. I was like, oh boy, here we go. Right. And then sure enough, the boys were able to kill that off. And I figured if they kill that off, they're going to have a chance to win. And they got it done.
Mm-hmm. And Primeau played well on that penalty kill too, and they had an extended 5-on-3, remember, and another kid that played really well on that 5-on-3 was amazing was Romanov.
Yep.
I mean, he blocked a couple of shots sliding across, the two pad stack, like the old goalies used to do, or like Guy Carbonneau used to do, throw himself in front of pucks like that. So that was neat. And then you see him at the bench with a big smile on his face. He's blocking shots. Actually, Mike Johnson was talking about that, right? The guy's blocking shots and he's smiling on the bench. He loves hockey. But if you look at a guy like Romanov, he played 24 and a half minutes last night, so only Ben Sherratt on defense played more than him. And speaking of ice time, Nick Suzuki was the most utilized player on Montreal. He played 25:09. Amazingly enough, for a forward, you don't see that very often, especially not in Montreal.
Yeah, I mean, in a way, I'm not surprised, only because he is the leading scorer on the Canadiens right now. I mean, he's sitting right now with 6 goals, 12 assists, 18 points in 31 games. Surprisingly, Toffoli's only behind him with 1 point, and he's out for a while. So, but yeah, to me, with Suzuki's numbers there, just like the trust for Nick Suzuki came from Claude Julien, right? I mean, that's where it all started when it came to believing that he was mature beyond his years, even a couple of years ago when he first came to the team and started on the fourth line with Nate Thompson and I think Armia or something along those lines. So, but yeah, I mean, it's nice to see the kids getting a chance. This is what the Habs fans have been clamoring for. Like, the season is it's a wash. And now you're seeing the young kids step up. So to see Dauphin, to see Alonen score the other night. I mean, Romanov coming into his own defensively and offensively. He's doing both, right? He's been able to show a lot of
1 point from his career year.
Yeah. And you know what? Like that, when he made that save, if you will, or blocked that shot on that penalty kill last night, to me, that was like the fans were cheering with it. You could hear the fans just like, like the defense chant would have been going, and everyone would have just been going nuts when Romanov blocked that shot, in other words. So, but yeah, I mean, a lot of bright spots from last night's game, including Jonathan Drouin with that beautiful shootout goal. I had some highlights prepared, but just we were rushing to get on here, so we wanted to not wait any longer to get on with you guys to show the highlight. But if you want to, you can go on YouTube. You can see Drouin's shootout goal. It was the only goal in that shootout, JD, and he was first star of the game too. So I mean, what do you make of Drouin at this point? Given where the season's at and the issues that he came out of or is still dealing with, I guess I should say.
Well, the last 2 games he's been playing the role of mentor, and I think it's a role that he relishes. He wants to be a leader on that team. He wants to help out. We talk often, and we've heard often about the type of person that he is, how analytical he is, how much he likes hockey. He watches just about every NHL game when they're not playing, and so on, right? So he is a student of the game, as we can say, and having 2 young guys, well, young, I mean, we talked about Dauphin 26, is the same age as Drouin anyway, but having Alonen on there, and he's a kid that I'm really surprised didn't score last night, but he was solid at both ends of the ice, like most Finns are. They teach them well in that country. He showed more confidence with the puck. He reminds me a little bit of Jake Evans last year when he started gaining confidence and carrying the puck a little bit more. We see the same thing right now with Alonen. It's only his 3rd or 4th game, and he's showing signs of confidence. The kid, I think, in my opinion, is NHL ready now. Whether he needs to spend a little bit more time in the AHL is a different story, but I think that he could play in the NHL in a regular shift now. And what impressed me most is we know about his good shot. We know about his good release. But it's his passing that has really surprised me. Even last night, we saw a few times, twice that I can recall at least, where he fed the puck to Ben Sherratt for a one-timer when Ben stepped into it. And, his vision on the ice, you can see that the guy's a hockey player. So I can't wait to see him get to that next level. But we're seeing that progression from him.
Yeah, you're right, and it's nice to see because I don't always get to catch much of the Laval Rocket. I try to catch what I can, but we get the updates from our team, from the Habs Night team, and also just YouTube, Twitter, all those sorts of things. But it's nice to have something that's still watchable in terms of a product for the Montreal Canadiens, right? That's what we're talking about right now. Is they're not able to put together, a great season to look forward to a playoff run right now. We just came out of that this year, an amazing playoff run, which was a surprise, maybe even a gift. If you really look at it, it probably is a good way to look at it, the way it all happened. But there's a product that we can still look forward to watching right now. Do you feel that way?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Like the Canadians just picked up Cale Clegg, right? We talked about it, and he struggled his first few games, let's face it. I mean, he was turning the puck over more than the Pillsbury Doughboy. So he had more turnovers. And so last night was by far his best game, in my opinion, in a Habs uniform. I mean, he skated well with the puck. He made sound decisions with and without the puck, actually. He minimized the turnovers, like we said. He made the low-risk plays for the most part, and he joined the rush a few times. Will he be a star in this league? I doubt it, but at least, it was encouraging. I was one of the ones who was starting to think that maybe as soon as Nico's ready, that he should be out of the lineup. He really wasn't doing the job. But when you think of it, I mean, he's a young guy, comes to a new city, a new system, and it sounds like that system is not as easy as some others to follow. And he had to get that sink in and get that in as a second nature in his game. And then getting used to new teammates. We saw Ben Sherratt a couple of years ago when he first started. The first 10 games or so were awful when he joined the Canadiens, when he signed as a free agent. Last year, we saw Joel Edmondson going through the same struggles when he first started, right? So for defensemen, trying to adapt to a new system, adapt to new coaches, adapt to new lines mates or pairings in defense. It's not as evident as we think, from watching, what they're NHLers and they know how to play hockey anyway, right? There's a lot more to it.
Yeah, that's a really good observation, actually, because how true is that? I mean, Ben Sherratt really struggled the first 10 games with the Montreal Canadiens. Joel Edmondson did, and then Joel Edmondson had the best plus-minus on the team, and we couldn't possibly miss him more right now, right? I mean,
Oh, absolutely.
How true is that? So,
yeah, really, it was good, and we haven't talked about him, but one of the best players on the ice last night was Cole Caulfield. I mean, the guy had a career high 8 shots on goal, and he missed the net a couple of times too. And it resulted in some good scoring chances. And he made some pretty good passes. And it seems like he and Lecky find each other quite well. Lecky turned into Gretzky on that one-timer cross ice pass, remember? And we saw, the goalie had to make a good save in order to keep him off the scoreboard. Nice glove save on that one-timer. But he was skating well. He was shifty. He put himself in good positions with and without the puck. He found the scoring areas in most part. And he was a threat all night. So Caulfield, his dad couldn't get in, but his dad missed a good game live, that's for sure. But it was fun to watch on TV. And he's another one of those young kids that's taking over.
yeah, it's true. I mean, he stood out, and that's if you notice a player, that's always a positive, right? So, is that a product of Philly not being a very good team either, or is that something we should attribute to it, or is it really just okay? Let's just take it for what it is. He had a good night.
I think it's a combination of both, to be honest with you. I mean, we can't downplay the fact that Philly is a struggling team, although they didn't make a coaching change and they're trying to adjust a little bit on the fly during the season, much like the Canadiens last year when Julien was fired and Ducharme took over. It's a very comparable situation when you think of it. But So the Flyers are not the tightest team defensively. They had something like 16. I was looking, they had something like 16 turnovers in 2 periods. So Montreal was all over them on the turnovers. But you got to say that the fact that Montreal was playing well created some of those turnovers, forced some turnovers too. So Montreal, you can't take all the credit away from Montreal because they're playing Philly, but it is a factor though that Philly will turn the puck over more than some of the top teams in the league. That's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, you take whatever you can get, and this was the Canadiens' first win, and my goodness, since Pittsburgh.
7 games.
So yeah, that was a 7-game losing streak. So you take it, and you take, and what's nice though is that every player we're talking about is likely in some way part of the future of the Montreal Canadiens, starting right in net with Caden Primeau, starting with Romanov defensively, Ylonen maybe, Caulfield, of course, Nick Suzuki, guys that are going to be here amidst the decision to fully rebuild, whether it's at the end of this season, at the end of next season. I think that it's just amazing. And we always come back to this subject, but it's amazing the power and the weight that Carey Price carries, because I think it all starts and ends with him with the rebuild, which we mentioned several times. But I mean, you can't just get rid of an all-world goalie and start a rebuild without giving him maybe another kick at the can. And I think I'll be surprised if we don't see at least one more season out of Carey. I know he's preparing for the Olympics, and Crosby's mentioned he wants to go to the Olympics, and some people are okay with the risk of going to the Olympics, right? That's where we're at right now.
Yes, although Pierre LeBrun raised some good points last night. Again, I like listening to him. I think he's a very smart hockey man with obviously very good contacts in the league. And what Pierre was saying last night too was that we're all waiting for a decision from the NHLPA and the NHL as to are we going, are we not going? So we're expecting that big announcement, right? Saying, no, we're not going anymore. Or if the NHL has to cancel any games whatsoever, or more games, I should say, then they have the option of putting a kibosh in the whole Olympic dream for every player in the league. They don't want to do that. There are players that absolutely categorically want to represent their country, particularly European players. There's a pressure there. But LeBron was mentioning, though, that it is a possibility where the NHL and NHLPA might decide to leave it up to each individual player to make their own decision. Now, if they start doing that, now imagine the pressure on some of those guys. If a player doesn't feel comfortable going, because let's not forget here, it's not just COVID. I mean, a lot of dignities, a lot of people from different countries are refusing to go to China as a boycott. And now, with the political aspect of it, who's to say who can really trust the Chinese government in this case? We know that they had 2 of our Canadian hostages for 2 years there. And who can really trust the fact that something like that, some political fiasco, is not going to happen? Some skewed COVID tests to remove athletes from certain countries, or reason to keep them there for longer than they should. So it's very risky. I don't know how the players will get through that, and the pressure on the players themselves to decide, no, you know what, I'm not representing my country. That's going to be huge too. It could be a mess. I'd rather see the league and the NHLPA get together and make a decision.
Yeah, and that's what LeBron was saying, is that it's Olympics or bust at this point. So there's no World Cup of hockey coming. That takes over a year to plan. So in terms of seeing best on best hockey, it's Olympics or we're not going to see it for Lord knows how long. So that's where we're at right now, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I believe so. And I think that's how it should be. Okay, LeBron raised the other option from talking to people, but I believe that it should come down to the league and the NHLPA getting together and making a decision together for the best of the game, the best of the players, the safety of the players.
Yeah, I mean, we've had all these names start to come out, right, from the NHL. You've had Connor McDavid share his concerns. You've had Alex Pietrangelo share his concerns. You've had Erik Karlsson recently sharing concerns. There's more. There's more names on the list.
Robin Leonard.
Robin Leonard, another one.
Yeah.
So, and I think he's already withdrawn, right? Leonard's already
Yes.
withdrawn from the Olympics. So, not a pretty situation, right? I mean, these guys have till January 10th to make up their minds, and I guess it's interesting because I understand the decision either way, and I think honestly, I don't want it to happen, but I mean, if some guys don't go, we're not really going to have a full best on best, right? We're going to have some best on some best. Like,
Hmm.
isn't that what it's going to be like?
Yeah. And it's not, it doesn't make for the best hockey anyway, right? If you don't have the best on best, that's the reason why we want to see it, is because you have the best of each country facing each other. And there's too much at risk health wise and politically wise, uh, in my opinion, anyway, to
Yeah,
risk that. And the thing is, we are in a crisis, even in the NHL as we speak. There are games being postponed. There are players being sick. So, how much do you want to pile on, really?
yeah. I mean, this is such a grander issue than the Olympics. It's the NHL. It's the Olympics. It's I'm going to work tomorrow night at an arena with half capacity here in Ontario. I feel safe. I feel fine. Everyone's fully vaccinated that has to come into the building, except for kids, obviously, which to me doesn't concern me. But I mean, that's the thing. It's just what's your comfort level at this point, and at what point are they going to pull the plug on certain things? So, what now for the NHL? This is a big question for a lot of things, um, but Carey Price and Sidney Crosby specifically probably are the only two that I have heard that are really pro going to the Olympics. And this is only as of a couple days ago. I don't know if their minds will change as more developments occur here, and the cases keep rising and this and that, and then also considering not seeing your family. I mean, Carey Price talked about how important it is to see his family and how he missed them in the shortened season last year with the restrictions, and how difficult that was for a lot of players. Tuukka Rask, we saw pull out of the bubble a year and a half ago because he couldn't see his family. So to be in a minimum 21-day quarantine or more, I mean, is it really worth it at this point? Or we've had to wait and postpone so many things. It's I guess at this point, it's if we postpone this to 2023. I mean, I don't know if they would do. They did that for the Euro Cup soccer, and they did that for Canada games. So, I mean, I think that's a possibility, is to postpone, maybe wait another year.
A big red flag too, as well, Drew, is the fact that there's um, the NHLPA cannot get a straight answer from the IOC about the sanctions or what happens if a player tests positive. Now, this is not on the shoulders of the IOC. They cannot get a straight answer from Chinese officials. And so that is, to me, a huge red flag as well, as to they can say whatever they want today, but in a week from now, in 2 weeks from now, or as the Olympics progress, they can change their mind. And so the risk factor out there, to me, it's not worth it. In my opinion, it's not worth it.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I'm just not going to be upset either way. And you know what? What does this mean for the World Juniors now? Because I know this wasn't on our plan for the show today, but as it comes to mind, the World Junior Tournament's going to be starting in Edmonton, as we know, in Red Deer,
Yep.
and we know the cases all across the country. I don't know the numbers in Alberta. I know they were struggling for a while, but what does this mean? Maybe, like, is this a whole other issue with the World Juniors starting next week? I mean, this isn't far away, and we've been really looking forward to Team Canada for the World Juniors. That's another issue in itself.
I think what Edmonton and Red Deer have in their favor is they've gone through it already. But they were one of the bubbles, one of the teams on the bubbles. They've also put up World Junior Championships in the past, very successful. So Alberta's numbers are no better than anywhere else in Canada. However, they do have the people who have the experience of putting those kinds of events and the sanitization and all that, right? So I think what will happen is the world will be looking at the World Juniors this year to see even if the Olympics are a possibility. Um, it's that big. I think it will be a small event compared to the Olympics, we agree, but it's that big of an impact here to say if there's a bunch of cases breaking, because those teams are international, let's face it, if there's a bunch of cases breaking out during the World Juniors Championships, in Canada, what is it going to be in China when you have an event that's 100,000 times bigger, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and this isn't just about hockey either, right? This is all, considering all athletes when you think about the Olympics and the
Yeah.
quarantines. I mean, like, yeah, we're zeroed in on hockey. That's our channel. That's what our channel's about. But that's another thing to think about is it's the other athletes competing in other sports, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
my goodness, we've zeroed in on hockey because that's our jam. But I mean, yeah, you know what? You mentioned a really good point though about the World Juniors and the fact that they have done it in the bubble, and they could be using that as a temperature gauge for the Olympics. That's an interesting thought there.
It won't prevent the spread of the virus if it gets to that point. I mean, players can't play with masks, but and as we know, masks aren't 100% proof. Fool, far from there, right? But you can't play hockey. I saw some pictures of minor hockey players, little boys, playing with those blue masks. And I'm thinking to myself, for anyone who's played hockey, holy smokes, how do you do that, right? How do you breathe?
Right.
You can't do that, obviously, at a junior level. You certainly can't do that at the NHL level. Um, I think it's going to be. You can't prevent the spread, but you can prevent. You can try to put the odds on your side outside the events, hotels, restaurants that they can go to, limit those places, and make sure that the staffs are always tested, make sure that there's not as much in and out of, I don't think they will create a bubble, but they can go to a pretend bubble or something as close to a bubble as you can get. It might be a full out bubble by the time the players get there. Who knows, right?
Maybe a modified bubble. Yeah. Like,
Yeah.
because we can still do half capacity in Canada as of right now. I mean, this was Ontario, an announcement that was made specifically about the half capacity limits, but Quebec just went full on, especially at the Bell Center last night, no fans at all. So you have to think that this is really being considered, and that the World Junior, the double IHF, everybody involved is keeping a close eye on this, of course, so that the World Juniors can go off, as best as possible. Everybody knows they have to be vaccinated to enter the building. The sanitization is going to be top notch. So you have to think that that's going to be a thing. Now, do we know, do we have any understanding of the allowance for fans for the World Juniors? Is it only going to be half capacity at this point, or do we not
I
know?
don't think anything has been announced yet for that. I know that here in BC, we have no announcements for the Canucks games yet, even, and they're waiting to find out about that. BC has been very proactive when it comes to COVID for the last 2 years with our officials here. Alberta has been a little bit more open or loose when it came to that, but they went through a very severe crisis about a year ago when they were shipping some of their patients to BC and to Manitoba because of they couldn't keep up in their own hospital. So I'm assuming that the officials out there in Alberta will have learned from it. They don't want another widespread. Let's face it, the staff, the medical staff, nurses, I feel for those people because they've been overextended across the country ever since March of 2020. They've been hit hard. They're working overtime in Quebec. They are forced to work overtime. If they don't, they could lose their job. But again, what do? You can't fire them because you don't have enough staff to start with, right? So it's a fine balance. Everybody's on edge. So we have to really, as a nation, as fans, we have to pull together, obey by the rules. It's not being submissive. It's being understanding and caring about each other, caring about what the other person, you may not get the damage yourself, but you could pass some serious damage to someone else. And that's our compassion. That's our Canadian roots here that we have to really put into place and apply and stop being selfish about it and think of us as a nation to try to get out of this stupid hole that we're in right now.
Yeah, a hole that feels like the same one we were in a year ago. Like,
Yeah.
that's the
And we're tired
frustration.
of it. I'm tired of it too.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're right. And that's where it's okay to say on a hockey show, I think, like, you know, let's put our own agendas aside,
Yeah.
and let's think of other people here, because the only way we're going to make things better for everybody is if we care about everybody. There's no other way, and there's no shortcut, right? Like we just have to do what we have to do,
But
and
Drew,
you know,
tell me, why isn't the NHL postponing all the games until after Christmas? Is there a reason, with the way it's going around the league right now, the way it's going around the world right now, is there a reason why they don't take a week or two off and start after Boxing Day, go back to the schedule, and then make a decision about the Olympics in the meantime, and perhaps use those 2 or 3 weeks that we were scheduled to be off in February and make up those games if Flyers don't go to the Olympics, right? So is there a reason why we're not trying to nip it in the bud right now, instead of playing in empty rinks or half empty rinks, to just postpone those games and hope that there will be fans in February instead? You know, for their revenue, they're thinking dollars only. Doesn't that make sense for them? But if you're thinking of players, think of fans, thinking of safety, is there a reason why we don't take a step back, maybe to take two forwards in February?
I think that has to be being discussed right now. Like to me, um, in the coming days here, especially with more games being postponed and now in Canada for the first time. Um, I don't see how that's not being discussed immediately, in that there's not a million Zoom calls happening as we speak, phone calls, right? Just trying to say like, okay, we've got to make a collective decision as a league, and everyone is currently showing that nobody has a handle on COVID. The Omicron variant is just getting out there quickly. Now it's showing that it's less deadly, which is good news. At least from what I've heard. I'm not a news expert. You guys can correct me. I don't really care. But I mean, from what I've heard, it's not as severe, but that doesn't mean that you're not going to get sick. So it's not worth it, right? So we should hear hopefully some news sooner than later. I think you're onto something there, JD, when it comes to taking the extra time to say, okay, now we got to figure out the Olympics. Let's focus on that. It's almost Christmas. It's almost New Year's. There's going to be family gatherings everywhere. And that means more potential for spread. And I think I think you're right. You're onto something. And I think revenue is probably at the forefront of their minds. It's still a business. That's understandable to an extent. But now it's more of a health concern. And we're back to having to put that as a priority first.
Yeah, and it's because it's everywhere. If it was one area, if it was just think about it too. Right now, all the divisions are set the way they used to be, the way they should be, where everybody faces everybody. What if the government closes the border? What happens then? They will have to apply for an exemption, and it doesn't mean that they'll get it. So how do you deal with that if you're the NHL, where your schedule is made, where you're playing U.S. teams, you're playing Canadian teams? Do you bring all the teams onto one side of the border and play the rest of the season there? They'll have to look at all possibilities. So I think that it makes sense, and that's just an opinion, to stop the season for a week or two, until Christmas, let's say, and start again in the new year, or start again in between Christmas and New Year's, and at least try to put the odds on your side in that aspect and stop the spread amongst players from one team to another. So that means when you say from one team to another, we're talking about one city to another too, right? Because those players travel. So try to put the odds on your side in that aspect, because there could be much worse decisions needing to be made down the line.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's where we don't want to get to. We're trying to nip this in the butt every time an outbreak starts, right? That's what we're trying to do as a nation, as a province, as a city, as a community, whatever it happens to be. Just want to reference Darren's comment for a moment. Stop calling people selfish for thinking there's another way. I don't think anyone really knows what the right way is, and that includes the government. So rinks are full in the States, and they shouldn't be. I mean, you just saw what happened with the Boston Bruins, the Carolina Hurricanes, as a couple of examples. There's more than that, right? So, I mean, rinks are full, and they shouldn't be, maybe. And you know what? Maybe they should be. Here's the deal. Nobody knows the right answer. Nobody does. So to have an opinion is fine. You can have your opinion. We can have our opinion. It's not a big deal. So when it comes to what's next, I mean, my gosh, your guess is as good as mine, JD. I think we've been saying that for 19, 20 months now, right? Like, we don't know what's next. But I I'm just going to sidetrack just for a moment as we approach the holidays. Now, some of you guys are Habs Tonight supporters, of course. Thank you for watching. We do see the amount of you guys that are on right now. We're just going to remind you one more time before the holidays, because I just got some new merchandise shipped to me from our Habs Tonight website, habstonight.net. Just got a brand new hoodie, which I was going to rock today, but it's actually warm enough, so I'm not going to wear it until maybe one of our next shows. But just want to remind you guys, use the promo code Dale on our Habs Tonight website, habstonight.net, if you want to grab some merchandise to save 20% off store-wide. This won't last for much longer, this code. So make sure you take advantage of that if you guys want to support the show. We certainly appreciate it. Like and subscribe if you haven't already. And JD, moving forward now, what do you expect? What's your just before we wrap up, and we won't end on COVID because I'm tired of talking about it already.
No.
But I mean, it is what it is right now, and unfortunately, it's just not done with us yet, and it's certainly got to make us stronger. But what do you see coming next for the NHL? I know what you think they should do, but what do you think they will do?
Honestly, your guess is as good as mine. People on the chat, people listening to us, their guesses are as good as mine as well. I don't think the NHL knows. I don't think the NHLPA knows. I don't think the players know individually either. We all have an opinion as to what should happen, what we
Oh, I kind of lost you there, JD. Not sure if you're still. Wi-Fi's got some issues there. Okay. Well, that's fine. We'll wait for JD to jump back in here. Obviously, there's a bit of a Wi-Fi issue on that side. So let's just take a look at what some of you guys are saying. Honda Center. So the Honda Center, correct me if I'm wrong, is in Anaheim. And yes, the Anaheim Ducks Arena. So 30% full. I'm not sure if that's just because of, the way the team is doing or what have you. But yeah, Darren, we appreciate the back and forth. We appreciate your comments, Darren. Believe me, this is a show for the fans. So you're welcome to chime in and give your insights. We don't ignore that. We try not to ignore them. So certainly you're entitled to have your say. I mean, this is a tough time for all of us, as we know. So we're trying to navigate it as best we can, right? So no, thank you, Darren. We're trying to have some healthy discourse, which in other words means a healthy conversation back and forth. Even if we disagree, we can still respect each other. And I think that's very key. The league can't say no Olympics. It's up to the NHLPA. Certainly it is. I mean, there's certainly a couple things to consider there. And I'm going to bring JD back on. Hopefully his Wi-Fi is back up and running. There you are.
Oh, my Wi-Fi was working. I saw that you were getting choppy for some reason, and I wasn't sure why. I think it's our platform that crashed.
Oh, could be.
I checked my Wi-Fi and it was perfectly fine.
Okay, yeah, mine is good too. So the good thing
perfect.
about the software that we use is that they don't kick you out every time there's a glitch. So
yeah,
that's an ad from YouTube that I saw. So you'll probably see that if you're us, anyways.
Because right now I can notice that you're choppy and your image is frozen on what you're looking at me like this.
Is it still choppy?
It's almost like I said something shocking.
Oh, maybe it's me then. Maybe it's me. Okay. Well, if that's the case, maybe we should wrap if we're getting, if we're having a hard time with this. I'm going to put this comment up here from Paul Correa. Can you guys still hear me? By the way, in the comments, let me know if you can still hear me and see me, because obviously we're having some issues here. I'm just going to see what's happening at the moment. Sorry for this, guys. There's obviously a bit of a glitch here. Love seeing Paul Correa's comment. But yeah, guys, let me know if this is still choppy here, because obviously there's a bit of an issue here. So let's see what's happening. Okay. I don't know if you guys can still hear me. Please let me know. I'll write a message into you guys. Still good. Okay, so we're still good. I can't tell, so forgive me. That's why I'm just sending a message to you guys. It is working. Thank you. Appreciate the feedback, guys. I'm keeping this comment up here from Paul Correa because Paul was one of our beloved regulars on the post-game show, literally calling from Korea on several occasions. That's why we call him Paul Correa. So as you can see, Habs fan for life. Thank you for watching. Well, with that, guys, we've been going for about 45 minutes or so, touching on a bunch of subjects here. The World Juniors, the Montreal Canadiens and Bruins game, of course, being postponed. That was what we led with today. The NHL and the Olympics, Caden Primeau being reassigned to Laval, and highlights from the Habs-Flyers game, of course, Jonathan Drouin not being comfortable playing against the Boston Bruins tomorrow night. And as a result, we see what happened, right? I mean, the game is postponed. A couple things we didn't really get to touch on, but a big shout out to the Vancouver Canucks. My goodness, 6 games in a row under Bruce Boudreau. I can't lie to you. I'm happy about it for my fantasy pool. I've got Brock Besser in there, so can't lie to you, guys. I've definitely have been appreciative of that. Other than that, I just want to touch on this for a brief moment. An emotional press conference from Paul Maurice, who resigned from the Winnipeg Jets earlier today, as you guys likely heard as well. So going to be interesting to see where he ends up. But thank you guys for watching Habs Tonight from Panama. Erica, thank you for watching. We appreciate that. That's amazing. We love hearing where everybody's from. So that's really cool. And congrats for the 13K subscribers. Thank you. Yes, another milestone. Really appreciate that. Sarah, thank you so much for chiming in on that. And subscribe, like, guys, if you can. I'll throw this up again because, of course, we appreciate it, right? We want you guys to smash that like button just to help us, into the YouTube algorithm more and have more people know about Habs Tonight and join this positive, Habby community that we've, been able to be a part of with Dale Weiss, of course, former Montreal Canadiens, as our host and leader. As you guys know, we always mention that for Dale, and hit subscribe, like I mentioned, guys. And I think we'll wrap it up here. But last reminder, one more time, 20% off at habstonight.net. Be sure to grab your merch if you guys want to support the show. A whole bunch of merchandise coming in right now from a Christmas order that I just placed. So very excited to get those out to the people that they will be going to. Hint, hint. But my family knows, I think, what they're getting for Christmas anyway. So I'm not too worried about it. But anyway, guys, listen. Thank you so much for watching. It's been a bit of a glitchy episode at the end here, but that's fine. We know that we have to roll with things as they happen. So, but yeah, hit like, hit subscribe, and stay tuned anytime Habs news breaks. We do have some clips that will be going out over the coming days, and I do have JD coming on here in a second to sign off with me here. But yeah, thanks so much for watching. It means a lot to us. I repeat myself a lot, but that the truth is, when you're live, that's how it goes. So JD, I'm going to bring you on to help me to sign off and to say thanks to the fans for watching.
Yes, thank you everyone for watching. I don't know what's going on. It's a beautiful day here. There shouldn't be any internet issues, and yet here we are. So I think it's COVID. No, we're not leaving on that.
Yeah, taking over the airwaves, you darn virus, son of a gun. I mean, we shouldn't. It's hard. You have to laugh sometimes. We know how serious this virus is. We're not downplaying it, but again, I mean, we have to find a way to stay positive in some way and keep our sanity, right? So that's what it comes down to.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, the folks did chime in and to let me know that they could hear me still and they could see me still, which was nice to know. So, but yeah, we really appreciate it, guys. So thanks for watching. Habs Tonight, as always, thanks you. Stay tuned for all of our content. We release it as soon as we can. We have a lot of people available on this team to do shows. And whenever there's news, we try to jump right on it. As you can see today, doing it a little afternoon show with you guys. So thank you so much for watching. We'll see you again soon. Habs Tonight. All the best to you. Stay safe to your families and friends out there. And we'll talk to you guys again very soon. Cheers.